When I think about God and how he pursues us as his kids, I want you to think about that when you're doing youth ministry. Think about God pursuing you and chasing after you no matter what. A couple years ago, we had this young lady that she had come up through our programs, and she was a part of our family. And my wife had really spent a lot of time mentoring her and discipling her. And she'd go and pick her up after school and take her home and all these things. But she came to this point in life where she had to make some decisions. And she chose the path that we didn't want her to choose. She went down this path of living on the streets and doing drugs and hanging out with the wrong kids and all these things that happen when you live that lifestyle. Well, I got a phone call one morning. I'd just gotten into the office, and her mom calls me just freaking out and told me where she was. And I hopped in my car and I drove over to this dead-end street. And I found this young lady sitting on this couch. It was right against the I-10 freeway here in Phoenix. And she was covered up in a sleeping bag, and she was strung out. She was not responding. She was breathing, but she wouldn't respond to our voices. And we just kept approaching her and kept talking to her. And she eventually heard us. And that morning, she didn't want anything from us. She didn't want help. She didn't want help finding a place to get her the help she needed. And the only thing she wanted was a bag of food. So we ran down the street, we went to McDonald's, we got her some food, went back, dropped the food at the side of the couch, and we walked away. It was one of the hardest things my wife and I have ever had to do in youth ministry. Well, about 2 months later, we get a phone call on a Sunday night. And it was after one of the biggest events we've done at the ministry for the year. And we were tired, we were ready to go rest and relax and have some downtime. And she said, "Hey guys, I've hit rock bottom. I'm ready to change." I looked at my wife and I said, "We've got to go. We've got to go. We've got to pursue her because she's ready to take in whatever God wants to give to her." And so that next morning, we went straight to her house. We sat there on the couch and we said, "Here's some options. Here's what we feel you need to do to experience true transformation in your life, to get away and break free from these addictions and these things that you're dealing with." And so that Monday, we drove her to a rehab facility and we got her the help she needed. And she became a part of this facility, and she was there and her life was being transformed. And 2 weeks later, she was baptized. She said yes to Jesus. And over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, she was ministering to other people. She was ministering to pastors. She came to our church and she ministered to the young people in the neighborhood and shared her testimony. And God was using her in a mighty way. Well, I got a phone call on a Wednesday afternoon from her mom again. And her mom said, "Hey, she's run away. I need you to come help me look for her." And at that point in time, she was about an hour outside of town, and I had to drive down there and search through this city that I had never been in. I had to go and try to locate her and find her to help her. Well, we never found her that day, and again, I drove away feeling terrible because I hadn't done anything other than drive around. And so I get home that night, and my wife and I, we spent time praying. We spent time just interceding for her and asking God to save her. And we get a phone call again on Friday, and it was her mom, and said, "Hey, she's home, she's safe, everything's good." So my wife and I, we jumped in the car, and we were actually on our way to California for an event. And that whole weekend, we're like, yes, this is gonna be good. God's gonna do some great things. We get another phone call. Get a phone call on a Saturday morning and says, hey, it was her mom again. And they said, hey, she left last night, but she didn't come home. And the mom said, I drove around all the usual spots and we couldn't find her, and I don't know what to do. And I looked at my wife and I said, it's gonna be okay. God is in control. And we did our thing in California. We came back and there was still no news. And this was on a Sunday evening. We still hadn't heard anything. Fast forward to Wednesday. I'm sitting in my office. I look out my door and my wife's coming down the stairs, and it's like she had seen a ghost. And she looked at me and she said, I told you something wasn't right. And she had gotten a phone call from this young lady's mom and said, hey, the police just called and she's in the hospital fighting for her life. So we jumped up We went and we picked her mom up and we rushed to the hospital, and we walked into this hospital room and we saw this young lady laying in this bed. Tubes coming out of her head, mask on her. She couldn't breathe on her own. She was non-responsive, couldn't open her eyes. And I looked at my wife and we just lost it. We broke down. But yet we had to be strong because the family was there. Her brothers were there, and we had to be there to support them. And we went to God. We prayed and we interceded, and we just said, God, change this. Let's see this transformation take place. Fast forward to Saturday morning, 7:45, November 11th. It was a day that was supposed to be a fun day. It was my anniversary. And I get a phone call from the mom, and this young lady had lost the fight. I woke my wife up. We sat on the couch and we asked God, God, what are you doing? Why did it have to end this way? 3 weeks later, we're sitting in front of about 150 people that loved this young lady. And we got to tell a story of transformation that took place. We got to tell a story of a young lady who used to be known as the druggie, who used to be known for spending time on the streets. But that day, we celebrated her life. We celebrated what God did and what God was doing. And we, without a doubt, are confident that she's in heaven. And she is free from all the addiction and the pain that she dealt with as a young lady. And so I want you to think about your young people. Are you pursuing them? Are you chasing after them and going to whatever depth you need to see transformation take place? Are you pursuing them like God pursues you? Because if you do, you're gonna see those young men, you're gonna see those young ladies that have experienced things that none of us ever want to experience. You're gonna see transformation take place. You're gonna see God come into the picture and do his thing. And you're gonna see young men and women, and you're gonna celebrate what God did in their lives. So always, always chase after those young men and women in your group.